Scott Taylor, who's got this book called Unembedded. When you are critical of the military, or when you go and talk to the insurgents, we all know this is a game of intelligence and who has the most information. Do you get a sense that the Canadian military is listening to your point of view?
I do. I mean, I now have access again to the brass, which for years, with us taking them on, you know, getting them fired and tarnished brass. I mean, the book, it obviously didn't make many friends in high places. That generation's changed. The guys that were colonels in those days, looking at the generals getting taken out, et cetera, now have changed. There's a whole different mindset up there now. You're not going to get the generals going off to $1 million fishing camps like they used to, while the soldiers are going to food banks. That's changed, and there's been a sort of truce.
Well, and Esprit de Corps has been, I mean, the criticism of your magazine used to be that it was just pissed off colonels giving you information.
Corporals used to say,
corporals,
that was always a big line. We were just the voice of the lower-ranking disgruntled soldiers. And I mean, I actually reveal in the book that, of course, we couldn't have had the access for those documents could only have come from other senior brass.
High-ranking,
It was the ones with integrity that were using us to get the message out to the media, but they never quite twigged that.
Tell me what happened when you got kidnapped. What happened?
I was in Iraq in 2004, trip number 20 into there. Area which I felt I really knew. I mean, it's northern Iraq. I'd been in there. I knew the Kurdish factions, the Arab factions, the oil and Kirkuk. I mean, I'd done a lot of stuff on that, which was very intriguing for me. And then I realized, trip number 20, I didn't know it at all. I mean, me and a Turkish journalist got to this town of Telefar. We knew there was going to be trouble. We didn't know what kind of trouble. And saw that the Iraqi police checkpoint was fully operational at the outskirts of town. So we thought, okay, good. And then these guys told us to get into a car with some masked gunmen.
The Iraqi police?
Yeah. And it was then we thought it must be a special forces unit of the police. And little did we know that, in fact, it was Ansar al-Islam. So
the Iraqi police were being funded by...
Well, they were quite proud of that fact.
Yeah, by the Americans.
Their cousins and brothers were all working as policemen and then giving half or all their salaries to the insurgents to buy the munitions, which they then fired at the Americans. I mean, 5 days inside the insurgency, you could see just how much, you know, if we would drive out of the town and into another town, these guys were treated like the local baseball team coming home. I mean, all these fighters, right? And there were all the police that were cheering them. So, you know, at no point could we have gone and got out to the police.
Well, at the time you were kidnapped, I mean, it's still, like, people get killed, man. When you got kidnapped, did you get a sense that this is it, I'm finished?
There was, no, I mean, I kept thinking in the early stages, it's just a, you know, mistaken identity. I mean, I was at that time still doing features for Al Jazeera. I'd been in, I had contacts. I'm figuring they're going to find out that my stuff's been pretty much against what the Americans have been doing, pretty much been humanizing the Iraqi people all the way along. That was the whole goal. But they weren't listed, and it was the fact that I've got an eagle tattooed on my arm. I mean, they strip search you and they do it. They just were convinced I'm a soldier and that I was a spy.
And you were a soldier, right?
And I was. Yeah. So, I mean, certain things worked against me, but I mean, when they came in and suddenly they're prepping you for execution and you realize this isn't going, and you got the weapons cocked and you're there with the blindfold on, and it's like, this isn't going the way, my talking's not working this time, right? So, and then just over the course of 5 days, it was 6 times, including when they were torturing me, I believed at that moment that they were going to beat me to death. And that's, so again, so there was like 6 times that I was prepped, either awaiting beheading or, you know, whatever, and then circumstances would change. But, and in no time, it wasn't done as a mental torture. Even the one morning after the Americans had attacked the group that was holding us, I mean, there was 50 of them killed that night and like 150 wounded. There was people killed and body parts everywhere. And then they decided there wasn't room in the car, so the expedient was to simply kill me. And the Turkish journalist understood what they were saying, so she, of course, turns to me and says, they're going to shoot you. At that point, I would have been happy not to speak Turkish, but like, thanks for the info. But
what happens, man? I mean, most people will never experience that. When you hear they're going to shoot you, what are you doing in your head?
That particular moment, I was completely immobilized with fear. And then I told her, the Turkish girl, I said, tell them I don't want a blindfold. Because the sensory deprivation for me was worse, like if I couldn't see what was coming. And we've been blindfolded and gagged, and it was hot, 50 degrees. And what they use for the blindfold is their scarves, those red and white scarves. So you've got somebody's head sweat in your mouth, and they've got the thing wrapped around, and then they put a sandbag on top of you. And normally I'm a little bit claustrophobic, so there's things welling up inside of you. Just the panic alone of being constrained. But when the enormity of what's about to happen to you, that you're going to be taken out and shot. And a guy actually came in at that moment and he beat one of the other prisoners, and he started beating me. And I could hear these far-off sort of hollow thumps and didn't realize it was him, like, pummeling me. And I guess, I mean, the game grew stale, but, I mean, the Turkish girl was yelling for him to stop, they were yelling at him to stop, and then finally he did.
How'd you get out, man?
She was released before I was. After we were both tortured, and then they released her. And from that point on, Turkish intelligence became aware of where I was being held. And in fact, when she was released, because she'd seen the blood, they'd broken my nose during the torture, so there was a lot of blood, and there was my shoes and the jacket, and they told her I'd been killed. So she had no reason to believe otherwise. So she actually left there thinking they were going to negotiate for my body for the sake of my family. And instead, then somebody comes in and says, wait a minute, no, he's been moved. He's chained to a bed. They're going to kill him, but he's alive. Wow. So then it was shortly thereafter that they actually.
Did you end up convincing them to look online and read some of your articles?
Did I which?
Did you get them to read?
I mean, once all of our identification's been taken, the cameras are taken away, that's all been destroyed. I mean, now you're being moved from group to group. You've got nothing. I mean, you're giving them your name, etc. But yes, there's a lot of stuff they can Google search. But when you're in Talafar, Iraq, where they were calling me a Frank because of the Crusades, when most of them were French. I mean, it's not a wholly, online kind of group, right? These guys believed my regimental coin was a telephone token for a payphone. I mean, this isn't the most worldly bunch of guys, right? So
that's insane, man.
And ultimately, for them, it was easy to spy or not a spy, kill them, let them live. There was no ransom discussed or whatever, because they were actually fighting a big battle against the Americans at the time. And
so what do you think was the reason you finally got released?
The Turkish intelligence convinced them and said, no, this would be a huge mistake. It would be in George Bush's favor to mean double whammy for the U.S. if you kill this guy.
Wow, that's incredible. The book is called Unembedded, 2 Decades of Maverick War Reporting. Thanks for being here, man.
My pleasure.
Scott Taylor, everybody. All right, when we come back to Internet Canadian content and improv star Colin Mockery. Great.
Mr. Mockery?
Yeah.
George will be set for you in a few minutes.
Great.
Okay, see you out there.
All right.
Oh, hello, George. Oh, that's very kind of you, but you are the most talented man in Canada. Well, let's just agree to disagree. Yes, I have won a few awards. I won a couple of Canadian Comedy Awards. But what do you mean, real awards? They were real awards. I got them for improvising. Yeah, making things up. It's still an award. No, you shut up. You shut up. Oh, that's it. This interview is over. I don't need this. Hey, why don't you wear some pastels every once in a while, huh? A little color, is that going to hurt you? I don't think so. We are done professionally.